Scooby wants attention down here. Yeah. Good boy. Alright, go get him. He's trying to keep me from working. He thinks it's playtime. Or dinner time. Whichever comes first. Alright, so I got everything all cleaned up again. So that's been 2 flushes there. Went and found my cam cover. Had to clean it up too. Get all the buffing crap off of it. A whole pile of stuff all figured out here. Okay, so we got the bearings fitted. Maybe. So now we got to see if it actually fits the motor. So that's what it looks like after everything's cleaned up in there. So what we got to do is see if it fits the crank. Excess oil off the bottom of the crank. Okay. So take our 2 bearings, go like that. And take your case and stick it on top. See what kind of fit you got. Make sure you put the rods where they belong. It went on, that's a good sign. Lift up about 1/8 of an inch and feel a jiggle jiggle. Hear the jiggle jiggle? That's what you want to see. Okay. So I'm happy with that. Okay, so those are good. Get out of the way. Okay, so most of the machining is done on this, but not the fitting. Now we work on the cam cover. Okay, this is a genuine Harley cam cover. These were NOS stock I got off of eBay. These are for shovel head, not Evo. So what I did was I reamed the hole out for electronic ignition, and then other than that they should be good to go. Make sure the oil gallery lined up with the case, which they should. Always double check again now. So here's a gasket. Take the gasket, lay it on your motor here. Okay, you see where the oil holes line up. This oil hole here is blocked. So only the oil holes in the gasket are being used. Just those. 2 holes in a case hole. Okay, you flip this over here. Try not to scrape it up too bad. Flip it over, lay it over here. See, that hole lines up. This hole does not line up. See right here? This one here does. That's your feed hole. Now, this hole here is feeding something else. See right there? I don't remember what that feed hole does. This here is the feed hole off the oil pump. Here, feed your crank. So what's this feed hole here? This feed hole comes up through here and feeds off this style of crank. So worst case scenario, we got to put another hole in the cover. So to make sure it's perfectly fine, I have to go find his cover. Or I just go grab a cover over here. There's a dog over there. Look at that dog. 73 to 92. See, now this is a 92 motor. So we pull this out here. The lid out. There it is. There's a cover. Oh, look at that. Doesn't have a hole in there either, see? That's a used gasket. Okay, so, see the hole? See the hole? Same hole. This hole's not being used, it's blocked off. Okay, so, that's saying it's the same cover. Now what I don't have is, I don't have this tube right here, breather tube. See, these didn't come with them. Just have to make that breather tube. So we got to keep this where I can copy it. So I'm going to put this over the machine shop over here. And we'll get to work on that later. Not too much later, but probably tomorrow or later tonight. There we go. Okay, so oil holes are good. Breather bad. Need breather. Okay, we're not working the breather part. We're working the fitment of the bushings. Okay, so we got to make sure that the crank fits in the snout over here. So you take your cover, go in the snout, slid right on. It's got a little clearance probably. Definitely looser when I fit them, but that's genuine Harley for you. So you want to see what genuine Harley fitment is? It's probably about 1.5 thou would be my guess. So here's how much jiggle jiggle you get with a brand new cover. See that jiggle jiggle? Top to bottom, side to side. So that's brand new pinion shaft, brand new Harley cover. They fit them up kind of loose. I fit them tighter than that. But that's me. Okay, so that fits. So don't have to worry about that. We do have to make sure it lines up in the case, so that'll be the next problem. That comes in a few minutes. Okay, now I gotta see if the cam works. Crane cam, fireball. I don't have any more of these, this is the last one. So, brand new cam. The instructions for setting up the heads, don't lose those. Collector item in a box, don't make them no more. Yeah, stuff a used cam in there. Tell somebody to use new. Or sell on eBay, that's how they do it. Stick the stock Eagle cam in there and say, oh, it's a crane cam. Cheap, 20 bucks. Unless you're a thief, I say 100 bucks. Then when you get it, you find out what it really is. Not that's ever happened before, right? Okay, so camshaft, wipe off snout. Get the other snout while we're at it. We got to check that also. Okay, now let's see how loose of a fit this is. CMD, come up just a little bit and feel it. You can hear it. Kind of see it too. Factory fit. So you want to know what genuine stuff is? That's what you get. Okay, mine are usually slightly tighter than that, but that's a good fit too. Okay, now I'm going to make sure this fits in the bearing. Of course, somebody covered up the case, we can't get to it. Really loose, see? Wobble, wobble, wobble. Look at that. You can hear that clumping in there. That's factory loose. See, everyone, how much clearance you have to have on your bushing on this thing. You can see how worn out a bearing it is. Really loose. Just about anything will work. Alright, that's one problem with bearings. They're pre-fitted loose. Okay, so as far as I know, everything's going to work at this point. We don't know if the cam will fit in the motor yet until after it's all assembled. So we have to do a mock-up of the crank assembly before we can figure out that number. We got to find out if the cam cover will fit onto that case. That's done after it's put together. Okay, so that's going to be the next thing after that. Okay, put that in there, we didn't damage it. Okay, these are the studs, bolts that we're going to use. We're going to put acorn nuts on the outside, and he wants to use low crown nuts, not high crown nuts. So I'm going to take off the stock hardware, put new hardware on here. That's what these are all about right here. New nuts. Of course, we got to figure out where we make that fit. Alright, so this is the old snap ring that held the bearings on, pinion shaft. Looks good, I'm going to reuse it. Nothing wrong with a good used part. It's been tested. Didn't fail. It's good. New parts fail, break. You don't know how long they're going to live. Okay, so we have to set up the Timken bearing in here also. That's another thing we work on. So I am going to do something. Figure out what I want to do first. Okay, go ahead. That rolls pretty good. Look at that. I'm going to go ahead and put the bearing on here right now instead of later. Just trying to decide if I want to do it now or later. I'm going to do it now. Screw it. Okay. Bearings go on. There's not enough lube, but we'll lube them again later. Place that over there. Okay, put snap ring on. Big file's in my way, trying to move it. Put it back where it goes. Ah. I got room to get my tools out now. See, I had file overlapping where tools come out. Makes it hard to get tools out. Okay, so. Oops. Ah. These are my pliers expanding. They expand the clip open. I forget what somebody said these are made for. I use it for piston rings and clips. I'm sure they got some other use they were made for. So I expand and push down at the same time. Stiff. Damn it. Not that I'm pushing on it. Just bang the clip in. Rotate it, make sure it's in there. It's in there pretty good, nice and tight. Bearings aren't falling off, we're good. Okay, so that part's done. Now we got to set up the Timken bearing. Okay, so we need a tool for holding a crank. Should be one of these two here. This appears to be a wide spaced hole. Small diameter. Appears to be the same as this one, which is S&S. Wide spaced hole. Small diameter. So that should work. Blow the dirt out of it. Never know when it was used last. Unless you watched my last video, did you know when it was used last? But doesn't hurt to clean it every now and then, make sure it's clean. Okay, this just gets held in a vise, which is way down there. The reason why I set up my shop where it is, because it's how I use stuff. Okay, I'm gonna put the crank in there. Okay, now we gotta get the bearings figured out what we're gonna use. Okay, we don't have a snap ring for this one because this was not a bearing kit, this is just bearings. Doesn't really matter because they never fit anyway. So this is our installation tool. And this is our snap ring selection. One of these will work. Don't know which one. One of these will work. See if you can mix these up for me. What was up with that? Okay, these are marked what size they are on the micrometer. So this is 16 to 20. These are 2 to 3. That'd be smaller. There's one's in between. Let's see, 7, 8, 9, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, and less than 1. That'd be the real dinky ones. I think I've ever used one of those. Okay. When they're all lined up, I'm going to grab the middle of the road one. Most of the time we're up around a 7 or an 8. I'm going to put an 8 in there. Good starting point. There's no such thing as a preset bearing because every bearing is installed differently. How tight do those compress in the case? How much does this expand going onto the crank? That takes up clearance. You got expansion, it takes up clearance. Because that compresses, it takes up clearance. So you never know what this is going to be. I don't care how the bearings come, you always have to check them. So it doesn't matter if you buy a kit or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to put some lube on this because it's going to be installed permanently on the flywheel. Now the oil will mask the clearance a little bit. I put oil right in there like that. Then I rotate it. Some of the oil comes down the bearing there a little bit. It lubricates the whole thing. You can hear it doesn't bounce around now like it was because it's got oil in there now. Okay, that goes on the crank. Put the spacer on the crank. Keep going out of view, don't I? Okay, this here goes on in the end of the crankshaft, screws down onto that, and then this compresses the sleeve, pulling on the snout of the crank. We are not pushing on the crank, we are pulling the bearing in. Never push on the crank, it warps the crank. Knocks it out of true. Beating on the crank's not a good thing either. Pulls it down. No compression on the crank. It's very important. Do not compress on the crank. I've had customers do that in here, and I get to rebuild the crank for them again, or retrue it. Of course, I get on their ass about being a dumbass real quick too. So it's going on pretty hard. I put a little thrust needle bearings in here to make it turn easier. They did not come that way. I also extended the handle to get more torque here, easier. It's easier on my hands too. S&S makes a rack style one that you use a big breaker bar. I have those if anybody wants to buy one. I don't like them because I cannot put a physical compression load on it there and check it. Strictly for installation. See, that puts torque on it. It stays there. The one where you pull it down the rack, it pushes down to the bottom of that and you're out and there's no pressure unless you keep yanking on it. This one you can walk away, it's still got pressure on it. I can actually check something this way. The other way is only for production assembly. Not the way I do things. And it's off the crank. Make sure you put the stupid washer in here. If you want to know what happens when that's not in there? Go watch my buyer beware video. You will see what happens. It's not pretty. At this point everything should be lubed, but I'm going to take it apart again, so I'm not going to lube it. Of course, watch it be perfect first time. So no lube on the bearings anywhere. Washers on the inside. The washer goes between the two Timkins and makes in play. Thick washer, more in clearance. Less washer, less clearance. It is not a 1-to-1 deal. It's more like a 3-to-1 deal. You take out 1 thou, you lose about 3 thou clearance. These are on a taper, they're not flat, so it's not a 1-to-1. Okay, just bottom down on the crank. Now we turn the bearing down. It has this nice holding tray right here. I take advantage of it. It's only on cone motors does that. Make sure your rods are over here where they belong in a hole. It's not good for rods when you put something sideways. Something is not happy right now. Something's dry. I'm going to guess my bearings are dry. Threads are dry, I mean. Time for a tune-up. Got grease in the bearing. I'm guessing the threads are not happy. Usually I put assembly oil on it, but we'll put some Trobodyne on there. Trobodyne's better than any assembly lube. Yeah. A little bit on the bearing too. Alright, let's see if that noise goes away. That'll be good for a few years. Trobodyne leaves a metal-to-metal protection layer, so even if there's no oil or grease behind it, the ceramic material or whatever the hell it's made out of stops the metal-to-metal contact. That's why it works so good in the motor. Let's see if it makes a difference. Nope, still making the same noise. I wonder what that noise is then. Wasn't lubricant. Ah, that hurt. Okay, I need to put tension on it. Let's see, yep, case moves. Okay, tension. We have tension on the bearing right now, just like under real world. Okay, the case works really free, so we know we are not tight. Now you only got about 2 shakes before you lose clearance. So let's see what kind of clearance we got. Not much. Feels good. The taper bearings go down as you jiggle it and locks it up, so you can't really tell the clearance. I got 1 click and then it was tight. No. Hear that 1 click? Camera a little closer. Okay, let's get 1 click and it gets tight. Did nothing. You got 1. So the bearing just dropped right down. It felt like it had about a couple thou clearance extra in there. When you have the oil in there, it tends to hold up a little bit. You get a couple hits, so I guess dry is not the way to do it. I thought that'd make it easier to find the clearance, but it is not doing it. Okay, so now I get to press it apart. That was an 8. I'll drop down to a 6. I think I got a couple thou worth of washer extra clearance in this thing. Okay, that's it for that. Okay, now I gotta go over the hydraulic press over there, and I get to press this thing out. Then I get to come back. Okay. The noise. Hey, Scooby. That noise is pressing on the bearing over the shaft. Need a little press fit lube on there, I guess. The first interruption for today.